Every day, all day.
This is how we roll.
This is 97.9, the BOX.
Hey,
We're here.
we are here. Good morning, Music Life Photography. Good morning, good morning, good morning. More to know. We've got plenty of people tapping in. This is awesome. Good morning.
Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning, Sharita. D-Lot. Lots of friends in here today. And of course, the Box family and probably some people from Morgan State and the industry.
That's you.
Yes. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started because we really do have just an hour today because we've got Tayana Taylor coming up with Good Morning H-Town a little bit later this morning. So,
Oh wait, am I Tiana's opener? Am I the ideal situation? Okay.
All right, cool. Well, anyway, good morning, everybody. If you are here for the business behind the music. I am Terri Thomas, the operations manager and program director for Radio 1 Houston, which is 97.9 The Box, Magic 102.1. We've got Radio Now, our top 40 station, and of course, Praise Houston. And this is the business behind the music. And the inception of this came from an event that we had called OpX that unfortunately got canceled because of COVID. And so what we decided to do was to take the content online, and it's been hugely successful. And today I have, actually was supposed to be one of our panelists, but my best friend in the world, I just will put it out there, my best friend in the world, but also the senior vice president of urban promotion at RCA Records. We have Sam Selowane today. So let me tell you about Sam. Sam is a culture curator. She's a curator of careers, as well as she mentors so many people in the business. One of my favorite things about Sam is that she is brilliant. She is fearless. She is a person who is self-made and has worked her way up from the bottom of this industry to the position that she holds now. She was recently named 2020 Woman of Impact by Variety magazine, and that's just one of the many accolades that she holds. She is responsible for working with some of the largest names in the business, like Chris Brown. We've got her, Alicia Keys, Justin Timberlake, the ASAP Mob, and the list goes on and on like the break of dawn. So besides the people that she works with at her label, I will put it out there on the side, everybody knows Sam is brilliant. So they find a way to find her outside of the office, and oftentimes will seek her counsel because she is that brilliant. So good morning to Sam.
Well, that's one heck of an intro. Thank you. I appreciate that. And for those who don't know, just as Terri has given me accolades, she is equally as amazing. And I live by this one quote, more like a scripture. It's Proverbs 27:17, which is, as iron sharpens iron, so must one man sharpen another. And you guys are looking at my iron. Terri sharpens me, I sharpen her. So boom, there you have it.
All right. And that could be a whole section in and of itself. The importance of surrounding yourself.
Brunch.
Right. The importance of surrounding yourself with the right circle. So Sam, you know, I've said a little bit of where you are now, but I do want to talk about the beginning.
Okay.
And you know, both of us are self-made women in the business, and it's interestingly enough, the way that we connected, you were working sort of in a little branch of the business called the Air, and it was a competition, and that's where you and I met. But I do want you to talk a little bit about your background and how you came to be in the business as you are today.
Okay. Well, it all started this beautiful October morning in not that far back. Okay, got you. Let me fast forward. Okay, so I will start in terms of my dad's a musician. My mom is a lawyer and who loves culture and the arts and music. So my passion for music really comes from them. You know, from as little as I could remember, I've been on the side of a stage always. It's music feeds me. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. What I do is I love shoes and I love music. The passion for music, I just think I was already born into. But I went to Morgan State University, 1996, freshman year. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I was studying mass media communication, and my concentration was in radio and television production. And at that time, 96, like the FCC had just passed the deregulation of the 96 FCC rule. So it was like radio stations were just now being brought up across the country. But my time at Morgan, I knew what I wanted to do, and I started to tap into the jobs that would get me to that career. I wanted to be in the business. And I wasn't really aware in terms of like executive, but I just knew I wanted to be around music. So I initially started as an intern at my college station, WEAA 88.9. And then I started hosting this rap show. It was called Strictly Hip Hop. Every Friday night from midnight to 5 a.m., 5 hours of like all this, it was pure underground college radio. It was, it was 50 Cent after he got shot. It was Sporty Thieves before they could even get on radio. It was Helter Skelter. It was, it was Jay Dilla when people didn't know Dilla like that, but it was this almost like this training ground of understanding radio. So, my other names are Baby Sam, and Baby Sam comes from my radio, from the radio name. And when I was in college, I just was like, you know what? I just love it. I love being able to really be around music and to make a career out of being on the business side. So, throughout school, I started interning at a radio station, 92Q, which is owned by the parent company Urban One. Shout out to Kathy Hughes. And throughout, I remember my college professor, he once said, he was like, we can teach you everything here. Mm-hmm. But the most valuable experience that you'll ever really get is an internship. And he said that my freshman year. And he said, don't wait until your like your senior year to get an internship. He said, if you can, get in early and just really try it out, because that's where you get all the kinks out. That's where you begin to understand an industry. That's where you begin to know like, this ain't for me, or this absolutely is for me. So my freshman year, I started interning very early, and I wasn't even getting official college credit for it. But after speaking to my professors, they were willing to allow me to do it for like extra credit in order for me to. So I finagled my way before the internship program started, sophomore, junior year. So 92Q, I was interning for the morning show. And Terri, you run a morning show. So this is when morning shows were live.
Yes.
So you got a broke college student. I've got no car. I'm all the way in Baltimore. So I'm taking the bus at 3:30 in the morning to get to the radio station by 5. Mm-hmm. At 5 in the morning, I learned how a morning show really functions. And first person I interned for, Terri Thomas, who actually is now at the National Urban League. Yeah. But Terri taught me how to produce a morning show. It was, what are you pulling for the morning? What are the snippets? What's the top news and the headlines? So that way, when the jock comes in, all they have to do is just funnel through some of the information. You already have everything together. That experience allowed me to understand how on air worked. When Frank Ski ended up leaving to go to Atlanta, I was like, well, who am I going to stay and intern with? And I really wasn't sure about programming. And Tara said, you know what, go into programming, go intern for this guy named Butterman, who was the music director at the time. So shout out to Butter, the bestie. Yeah. And in that, I started to understand the business side of radio, not just the on air, but now the business. So I was his assistant, I was his intern, and I tell you, it was probably one of the best experiences ever, and I was able to meet a lot of great people, really make a lot of great connections, and from there, that's how I started really in the business. And then we can progress from the radio station. I went to an independent promotion company for a couple of years, and then after that, I went to Jive Records in 2005, and then I've been with Sony. I'll say Sony because we've had so many different name changes, but yeah, so that's the abridged version.
Okay. I'm going to jump right into, I see a comment here because I know this is a passion point for both of us, and that's the internship and education. There's someone who's commenting, why don't people take internship more seriously?
You know what? I think because people don't hear how important internships are. I think internships are always given, and when I was interning, you weren't getting paid. You were doing the work that it's almost like a lightweight version of hazing. It's like you were doing all of these different things that you don't realize is really valuable in understanding what's happening, and internships allow you to really develop your skill. Now, your skill is really about how you do things well. It doesn't matter what the job is. It matters that you do it well. And I just used to remember, I was like, well, if I got to go get their sushi for lunch, then I'm going to be the best sushi getter. Why? Because there's a reason why a certain person can't go out themselves in the middle of the day, and then now also being in the workforce. We know how it is. There are often times we don't eat, there are often times that we don't have a moment because you're back to back to back to back meetings. And by the time you have free time, it's 5, 6 o'clock. So I just used to remember, I was like, if I'm going to get coffee, I'm going to be the best coffee getter. But the excellence of the work and the pride in the work is what got the attention of people. I remember back then, this is when we had conventions. I used to be the conduit of information when the people from the record companies couldn't get in touch with somebody there. I would always have an answer because I was knowledgeable. I made myself available, and I was just really trying to infuse myself into these places where I was like, hey, I can be an asset if you just need somebody. So I remember one time I get a call from one of the label guys, big shot in New York. He was like, are you going to this convention? And I was like, no, I don't even know what that is. He was like, I'm going to send you to this convention. And I had no idea what that even meant, and shout out to Joey Carvello. I was an intern. Like, I wasn't getting paid. I was a college student, I was like, just give me a couple of CDs so I could take the record and tape traders and I could make an extra couple of dollars. But he just used to say, he was just like, I see something in you. And every time I come in, you really were the glue. And again, shout out to him because he sent me to it might have been Gavin or Impact or Mix Your Power Summit. And there I started to extend my network. And again, I was still an intern, and this was all before I became an official employee of the station. So I think because people don't highlight internships, because sometimes internships aren't pretty. They're not sexy. They're not, they're not the, oh yeah, we're on it. No, it's really the hard work. But the hard work honestly really does pay off because you are able to, especially now most internships are getting paid, but you're able to get the knowledge and to understand, like, is this where I want to go? Is this what I really want to do? Like, it's almost like a test run for free. Like, there's no other place that you could be able to do that while you're still figuring out the career. I do want people to always understand, like, a job is a job, but if you design your career, you can always choose subsequent jobs that will lead to a fruitful career.
Right. I'm just gonna tap this in. We got DJ Polly. I hope I'm saying that right.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm at the View, so I have my coffee here. You see,
I see you.
Art and sneakers. So I'm sipping my coffee like I'm on the View. Well, go
And
ahead, girl.
I'm in Texas, so I've got the topo. So, um, you know, basically weighing in or commenting that you can't receive the info if your stomach is growling. I'm gonna have to challenge that. You know, and I'm hardcore on the internship side of things as well, because I interned and because, again, self-made person. It's the question of what are you willing to do today to live a life that other people aren't willing to live tomorrow. So to me, I get it. You know, at that time, especially, internships weren't paid. And I will say this, and I know this is going to be a highly controversial statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think the fact that companies are now paying interns has actually limited the ability for companies to have interns in a lot of cases, which is unfortunately sort of cycled back, and I think affected college students adversely. I'm passionate about internships because it's like an audition. It's, if you approach it in the proper mindset, you know, it's going in there and showing that you can be a person of excellence, again, to Sam's point, no matter what the task is, and getting yourself on the radar in a way that I've seen. And Sam has had many interns that have worked with her. I've seen interns myself who have gone on to paid positions and had highly successful careers in the business. So everything in life that you want is going to require a certain level of sacrifice. Everything is. You just have to decide, is what you want worth the sacrifice that you should be willing to make to get it? And, you know, it's tough when you start out in a business because, you know, you may have to work another job. I'll be honest with you. I won't hire somebody part-time if they have a lousy attitude about the job that they're working now that puts gas in the car and food on the table, right? So if I'm interviewing you and I say, you know, what are you doing now? Oh, okay, I work at, you know, whatever store, stocking shelves. And you start about that job and about the people and about that. I'm really not interested in you because you have such a poor attitude about the thing that's allowing you to even come here and sit in front of us to talk about an opportunity. Right? So that says something about your character. I think a lot in life is about attitude and your approach. So having the right mindset for a thing and really finding the opportunity and the obstacle can go a long way to making a difference in your future, because it's a thing that's about developing character. So, you know, just really want to just put that out there. I know we want what we want and how we want it, but everything in life is going to require some pain. It's called the pain to gain ratio.
And you know what? To add on to that, I try to use this analogy. And you know, I'm not a sports person, but you know, you think about any one of the greats, whether it's Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, whoever. Before they got the contract, before they went to college, before they did the high school, what they did was they would shoot hoops. They shot the hoops just to practice, just to make sure that, all right, I can actually do this. Like, I could actually be good at it. They weren't getting paid to shoot hoops in their front yard. They weren't getting paid to go to the park to go shoot. They were identifying at those moments that, you know, before you get to the big leagues, what it really took. And then they understood, like, oh, if I'm actually remotely passionate about this particular thing, I could actually turn it into something bigger. And I like internships as literally shooting your hoops. You're just, these are the practice shots. This is you trying to figure out what's gonna stick, how to land that 3-pointer, how to not get fouled. This allows you to really understand, like, oh, I can now turn this pastime into something that I can make a lucrative career out of. And I want people to know that, you know, we are, in my department and at RCA, we're very big on the intern program. And we have hired from our intern pool. We have placed our interns in jobs within our intern pools. Anytime I see a resume that shows that you've had a couple of internships, I look at that because that shows me that you were in school, you were taking initiative to really try to figure out the career path. A lot of entry-level positions in a business are just that. The entry level. You're not going to go to the corner office your first time out. I don't care who you are. Like, you still have to, you still got to work. It doesn't matter who you are. And there's way too many people who have worked and they've worked hard. But what it allows you to do is it allows you to get your foot in the door, to build your contacts. That way, and you and I both know this, how often have you called me and said, hey, Sam, if you know of such and such, I am looking for boom. Or how often have I said, hey, T, there may be a couple of jobs open, and not even with my label, not even with RCA or Sony. I've got friends at Interscope and at Capitol and at Warner that are like, hey, we've got these positions that are open if you know anybody. So these are the things that you always want to make sure that you are a part of with regards to the conversation, because outside of that, how else are you going to get in? And
Right.
I didn't turn off my notifications, so I don't know if you can hear it through the phone. So
No, it's cool. You're fine.
okay.
So I do want to talk about something I think along with that that's really, really important is that, you mentioned the word networking and banking contacts. I think a lot of times people go into situations and I should probably do a whole section on networking. You network wrong. Okay. You're just wrong. Network wrong. Networking, people think, is going into a scenario and saying, what can you do for me? What do I need from you that I can get from you? And I understand that may be an objective, but that's not necessarily the best approach. Can you talk about networking and building contacts from your perspective, Sam? Because I think I know you're phenomenal at it. But I think it's important, are you going to be the intern that's going to come in, trying to look, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? Or are you going to be the person that lets your work speak for itself? Talk a little bit about that.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I've had interns that want to skip the steps. And when I say they want to skip the steps, they want to, if I'm going to a radio station, or if we have an event or something like that, they automatically are, I want to be there, I want to do this. And it's like, but you haven't understood the basics. You have to understand the basics. And that also works into networking. Networking isn't about saying, yo, this is what I want to do and I'm hungry and this, that, and the third. And it's not even about personality traits, because you can be gregarious and outgoing and very boisterous. You can be all of that. But there's also something about understanding, like you understand how to move. You know what I'm saying? You really have to understand how to move, how to understand the room that you're in. You have to read the room and then know, what is it that I'm going to do? And if I'm going to approach somebody, what's your elevator pitch? So if your elevator pitch, and an elevator pitch is, you and I get in the elevator, I'm going to the 5th floor. I'm going to the 5th floor and you may be going to the 7th floor, but you're like, oh, this is so-and-so. You got 5 stops to say what you need to say to spark the interest. And if you're not aware of who you are, A, as an individual, B, if you're not aware of really what you want, and it's not to say that you can't express the desire of the things that you want, but once you understand that, then your conversations are always clear. Because even if you say, hey, I want to pick your brain, which drives me crazy, because I'm always like, well, pay the invoice first, picking my brain, you picking 20 years of knowledge, but I'm always up to offering advice and information and all of that, because knowledge is power, and none of this is mine. It's up to me to give what I've learned to other people. But people have to understand what you're doing in those situations. You're given an opportunity to be in the room. Sometimes networking is being the wallflower, and networking is observance. Networking is seeing how other people are moving, so you can learn and then figure out how it can be applicable to you, and or maybe not you. But some of those things are, everybody thinks networking is, yo, I'm in the door, here's this, here's that, this is what I want to do, and then no. Because even if the intern is correct, I'm not going to listen to you. You know why? Because now you've come in with an air of arrogance, and it's like you have to understand the way that each room is set up in order for you to really get your point across. And that's just really with life, period.
Mm-hmm.
Internship or not.
The first and most important move of networking is the ability to move in silence.
Oh,
period.
Like a real G in lasagna.
Period. That is the first and most important thing. No matter what room you're in, I don't care who's in the room. It may be every and anybody you ever wanted to see and meet, and you have every urge in your life to pull out your phone and try to get those shady selfies. Don't do it. The first and most important move of networking is to sit back and pay attention. Listen.
So I'll go back to that when I got sent to the convention. When I was there, I was like a fish out of water because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know, who half these people were because I was out of my realm. But it was my opportunity to be like, hi, but I didn't. What I did was I played my position and I watched what to do. I saw people doing things and I was like, okay, that's admirable. That's kind of fire. That's super dope. Then I saw other people where I was like, oh, yeah, no, that ain't going to be me. But that was part of the networking. A couple of weeks and months later, people were like, hey, I remember you from such and such. You were there, weren't you? And those are the things. It's when you allow your work ethic and when you allow the things that you do to speak for themselves, let the work be your introduction.
And let me also just add a little bonus on that.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I want you to use your phone in these circumstances is to make copious notes.
Come on, copious. Come on, big word.
Emerson College in full effect, yes. When you are in a room and you're making observations about the people that you'd like to build a relationship with, first of all, you need to make observations, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are they moving? Maybe you're in a situation where you're on the fringe of a conversation. You should be silent. You should be listening because that person will give you clues to conversation starters that could be a benefit to you when you have the opportunity to connect with that person. Okay. I am a huge believer in copious notes in the phone. Even if you don't yet have the contact person, I'm a spiritual being. If y'all know me, you know this. You got to build it and they will come. So I may want to meet Sam. I don't have Sam's contact, but I will put Sam in my phone. And then when I have the opportunity to observe how Sam moves, like right now, I don't know Sam hypothetically, but I see she is an aficionado of sneakers. So that's an opportunity for us to start a conversation. I see she's got these bomb fly glasses. So she's a woman of style and fashion. Opportunity to start a conversation, right? So the things that you could, passionate about education, went to Morgan. I'm writing this down, right? So I'm making notes about the person that I'd eventually like to connect with so that when I have the opportunity to open my mouth and speak, I've really got something to say that can connect with that person on a personal level and open a door of conversation, because that's what gets my attention is research. It's like the old school thing when somebody says, before you go to interview with the company, do the research about the company. Before you network with the person, sit back, pay attention to the person so that you have a good launching pad to further network would be my thought. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, Sam. So I know we've got people in here that I will invite questions. So if you've got them, let's not wait. Let's drop them in. We've got a hot 30 minutes left here. So if you have a question for Sam, please drop it in. So Sam, there's probably a combo of people in here, those that are independent artists aspiring to either get to a major or grow their career, and also people that are aspiring to be in the business. So for artists, and I know you're obviously passionate about music, but for an artist who's just starting out or who's independent, not signed to a label or anything, what would be some good starting advice you could give for somebody to help grow their career in the early stages?
I think people really have to identify that they actually want to be artists. Like you actually really do want to be an artist. Not famous, because there's a bunch of famous people who don't do a bunch of, you know what I mean? Like,
you don't make a bunch of art, right?
Yeah, yeah, you famous for a bunch of shenanigans, but you have to really identify that you want to be an artist, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to have this hierarchy of you just have to say, I want to be an artist, because from there you're able to really develop the craft. And whatever the craft is, singing, dancing, rapping, mumbling, whatever it is. But from there, you have to have a strong team. and artists that come in, and I know it's always hard because it's like, well, how do you find this and how do you find that? There's nothing but the good old world of Googles on these Al Gore internets. You know, I mean, understanding what a team is okay. If you have a manager, you have to have a manager who is equally as passionate about you and your project and your art, because your manager is essentially your representative in a room you're not in. So if somebody cannot articulate your vision, your thoughts, your ideas, anything, then they cannot go passionately sell that to whoever they need to sell it to. You can't even passionately sell that to the audience. And when I say sell, I mean give it to the audience and allow them to consume it, embrace it, and then you build a fan base from there. Building a strong team is probably one of the most important things. And understanding really like how the business works in broad strokes of, your fan base. You put the music up and, because if you come to a label, we're essentially going to try to do the exact same thing that you could have done on your own. And you might as well do that stuff on your own for you to figure out what works and what doesn't. The most successful artists are always the ones that really know what works for their core and what doesn't. Chris Brown is the perfect example. Like Chris, when I met him, he was 15 and he was spot on and had tunnel vision. He was very clear on exactly who he was as an artist, of what he wanted and how he wanted to create. And he was very creative. And he understood that, and everything that built to it, everything he released, he built knowing the audience that he was catering to. And Team Breezy is very, that man, Team Breezy has held him down for 15 strong years, but he knows the audience and he knows how to cater specifically to the audience, even though he's still an artist creating art his way. Artists have to do that. And a lot of people don't. They come in, they're just like, yo, I want to come to a label. A label is giving you nothing but a big fat advance, and that's it. You need to come in knowing that the songs that you put up, your fans like the 3-song EP as opposed to the 10-song EP. Your fans, love when you did this kind of a show or this kind of a this. Understanding that will literally help you navigate, because that gives you a better bargaining chip if at all you want to now upstream your product or your projects up to labels.
I love that you are talking about knowing who you are as an artist. Love that. Who you are as an artist, where you want to go. I think sometimes we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. I can say that, I'm Italian. Spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I find that the most successful artists have done that sort of inner work to figure out, who am I as an artist? Even if right in this moment I don't have a fan base, what type of art am I making? What do I want to say? How do I want to say it? What is my vision for myself? Because I think that along the way, any artist, we could all have a plan. I did a post on this yesterday, the power of the pivot, right? It's important to identify if things aren't working. That doesn't mean that you change your vision. It just means you change your strategy. So I think it's essential for artists to really know who you are as an artist, because the business is going to challenge you on every level to make you something that you're not. I'm going to give a good example of what I think, an excellent example, one of many probably, of an artist I think that did that, and that's Pink. Some of you may or may not remember when Pink first came out. She was truly this pop princessy, manufactured sort of thing. Amazing voice, presence, all of the things that you want to have, but that's not who she was as an artist. And on her second album, she challenged the people and she said, I need to make the album I need to make. And when she did that, although she had success on the first run and they were scared to give that up, she fought for what she believed in and became the artist that she is today, and it's held true to that, and it's had a gazillion, successes from it. So knowing who you are.
I'll add one thing too. And you know, everybody who knows me knows just how much I love Lenny Kravitz, and Lenny Kravitz is Eternal Bay. But you know, my passion for Lenny always comes from the fact that me being in the business and knowing how sometimes the music business can change people, can change, you know, we can have our own desire of what we think that we want you to be. And artists, if you don't have conviction of self, you will change. You think about Lenny Kravitz coming into the music scene, 1989. He's coming in where Public Enemy is doing Fight the Power, Spike Lee just did Do the Right Thing, and it's like EPMD dropped album. So it's like the black movement in music was rap, and rap was coming in hot and heavy, and you got NWA and whoop-de whoop-de-whoop. Then you got this dude who's wearing feather boas and you know leather, you know, like leather snakeskin pants, looking crazy. You know, on an album called Let Love Rule, doing rock, and in that mindset. And you know, now looking back at it with all the with everything that's kind of coming out with regards to like the racial undertones of music business and all of that, you still think that he's a person who, after Let Love Rule in 1989, we go to Mama Said in 91, and he didn't change one bit. Why? Because he always knew. He knew the content of the music. The music was always based on love, on God, and just spirituality. In a very rocker, but Let Love Rule, it like he almost had like these kind of like these spiritual records throughout, and Lenny has not changed from album after album, whether he's doing American Woman to I Wanna Fly Away. The music and consistency of pure artistry has never changed. And now he's 55. He's the illest. Everybody now is trying to be like him, but that goes to show that back then there's true power in really knowing who you are as an artist. And when people come to you and say, "Oh, instead of wearing your mother Roxy Roker's jacket, why don't you wear this, you know, this Nike sweatsuit?" He's like, "That's not me," you know. And Virgin Records at that time was like, "Oh, well, maybe we could try to figure that," and he's like, "No, that's not me." So, you know, I think that there is true power in conviction of self as an artist.
I love it. We have a question from Mr. Law Smith, and I'll tell you right now, Sam's not going to name a name, but I think it's a decent question. Who challenges you the most, and how do you respond?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know that you're gonna name names, but
you know what? No, I think every artist challenges me, and that's not a political answer, but that's because every artist's project is different, and you have to think artists are people. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they've created; they're still essentially people. You know, I may think like, "Oh, we should go with this record," or "Oh, you guys should have done something else," and they still have their own vision, every last one of them, you know. So I think it's challenging because you literally cannot do the same thing that you do for Chris Brown, to Ro James, to Alicia, to her, to ASAP Rocky, to ASAP Ferg, to you know, Young Nudy, to Deontay Hitchcock. Like every artist essentially is different. Their messages are different. Their voice in a conversation is different. And I think that to me is the challenge. And the challenge is if we are at opposite ends, how do we meet in the middle? Because the ultimate goal is world domination.
Love it. Here's a good question. Interesting question. Who should be in the forefront of what works? The manager or the artist?
The artist.
Yeah, I would co-sign that. Remember, the artist is the CEO.
It's the art at the core end of it. If you're not the person on the mic, none of us have jobs. The manager doesn't have a job. The radio station doesn't have a radio station because there's nobody singing. I don't have a job because there's nobody, you know. It's the artist is, we essentially are the conduit to that individual person's dreams. And we are the ones that make their dream a reality, which is to whatever it is that they have created, we now put that and present that to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
It's always artist first, even though I'm always right. I don't care who.
You are always right. I
I'm
will
always
say the only exception I've ever seen to that is when you have what I call the manufactured groups. And, you know, there's been TV shows of that where, you know, L.A. Reid or Diddy or somebody who's certainly an icon in the business decides that they're going to give the opportunity to pull together a group. Then you have to understand what you're signing up for. You're signing up for somebody else's vision. You're not signing up for your own. So that would be the only exception, I think. So Elijah's in here, Sincere, who we had on not too long ago about executive protection. An awesome session that is posted. If you've not seen it, that's another facet of the business that is fascinating. So his question is this: how do young girls aspiring to the business find avenues in without being preyed on by people in positions of power?
Let me take another sip of my coffee. That's a very good question, and it's so tough. It really is tough to be young and as a woman, especially like for me as a Black woman, having come up in the game. Let's dial it all the way back to that first that first trip that I took to the convention. I was saying I saw things that were happening and I saw things that weren't. You have to really be a strong individual to understand yourself and to know what you want. And the only way that you can do that is to really have kind of like a like a come to Jesus moment and saying, you know, what are your morals and what are your values? And if you want to work hard, and to me, I do try to show people that you can work hard and succeed and not be a backstabber, not be negative, not be, because there's a lot of that, and not be, you know, be true to your word, have integrity, and truly have an honorable position in life, and not be high and mighty. I hope I don't come off high and mighty, but to really be somebody who is humble, hardworking, and has a sense of, you know, no nonsense. People now know, like, you're not gonna approach me on some bullshit. You're just not. Pardon French. Like, I don't accept it. I don't take it. And just any kind of conversation, because that's not how I approach you, nor do I accept that. And you, as a young woman, you will get tested very early. Though in those moments become the defining moments of what you do next and how you're going to craft the rest of your story. You know, whether you get, like, we've all been tested in any kind of capacity. Somebody tipping to us wrong, somebody making inappropriate gestures, somebody doing, but it's really about what you do next, and understanding, you know, there's always going to be a choice. You could go down a dark path and play with that kind of fire, or if you stomp the flame in those moments, the moment you stomp the flame, that doesn't hinder you in the long run. That doesn't hinder you. What that does is it helps identify, like, oh, I can do this. And I just would implore, like, young girls who get challenged to stand on their beliefs, to really stand on your beliefs, because, like with anything else, people will see your work and they will see that's somebody that I can count on, that I know won't be reckless. I know if I put them in this situation, they're not going to be such and such, or if something was to happen, that they wouldn't be, that they would know how to handle themselves in those kind of precarious situations.
Yeah, I would say this, you know, as part of Sam's inner circle, birds of a feather flock together. So, you know, you have to teach people how to treat you.
Yep.
And in those moments where you're insecure about achieving your goals because you're starting out and you really, really want it, and you got some who's dangling the very thing that you want, but the price is too high. It's high. Because once you pay that price, man, that bill collector comes to collect all the time, whether it's that person or the next person, because this business is this big and people talk. So I also would strongly encourage you to be bold in the face of adversity and to stand in your own personal truth that God gave you all of the gifts that you need to be successful without selling your soul for it. So I would just implore that of you. I would also say that my advice to women especially has always been be accessible but not available. Because I think sometimes as women, because we're wanting to be down so much, we're wanting to be a part of the scene so much, we do make ourselves overly available in situations that we shouldn't be in. It's okay to say no to a scenario. There was an incident for myself way back in the Gap where it was the opportunity to, oh, come up to Big Daddy Kane's hotel room. Nah, kid. I went and got on the subway and went home, right? So, and it was under the guise of, yeah, let's talk about goals and dreams and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, like the bell goes off and you have to make sure that you're strong enough to remove yourself from situations as well, and know that, you know, your path is your path, and if you follow what's meant for you, there's nothing anyone can do to you to get you off of that if you stay true to yourself and true to your dream. All right, DJ Iran. Sam, what was your boldest pivot?
What was my what?
Boldest pivot.
Leaving the radio station. So when I left the radio station, I identified that I didn't have a passion for going into that building, and I felt like I was just miserable. I didn't like it anymore, and I literally was like, yeah, I think I'm done. I didn't have a job, but I was like, yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I'm cool. And I quit on a Friday. Like I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not, you know. And then Monday, I got a call from Air, and my mentor now, who is triple OG in the business, was like, "Hey, we're starting something. You should come to the startup." It was like the promotional version of a tech startup. It was never tried before and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, come over." And that became my stomping ground in terms of like really understanding the promotion side. So I would say that was the boldest pivot, because I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew I wasn't happy.
Can you name a valuable lesson learned from a misstep you have taken in your career?
I don't take missteps. I am good. What are you going to talk about? A valuable lesson. A valuable lesson that I always say is you have to know the beast that you're dealing with. So I say that to say, if a person, like I'm trying to say it without kind of giving the scenario, so that way people don't know specifically who I'm talking about. But you know, if a person shows you who they are in terms of character, in terms of sorry about that, in terms of like of just anything, if a person shows you who they are, then you have to understand that that person is that person. And you're able to navigate and move around it. If there's a person who doesn't want to promote you, right? Or if there's a person who doesn't want to, if you've even seen like an executive or just anybody within the business who's not being very open to others, like, or to go advocate for them and this, that, and the third. When you see that, know that, okay, that's that person. You're not going to be able to change it. So when things like that happen to you from their character, you're not taking it personal. You're just identifying like, okay, that's that person. Let me figure out how to move a little bit different.
I think that is such wise advice. And that, again, a lot of times, because a lot of what we do is communication, you know, people forget about the importance to be in silence, right? And that is absolutely, and I'm going to use one of Elijah's or two of Elijah's favorite words, since he's in here, situational awareness.
Yeah.
Situational awareness is key in life, right? But especially key in your career. Watching how people move, you know, paying attention to what's happening. And to Sam's point, you know, believing it, and then you got to have a thick skin in the business, whether you want to be an artist on the artist side of things or you want to be on the executive side of things. You know, you're going to hear no a gazillion times, and no may have it may be personal, it may not be personal. At the end of the day, it really just doesn't matter. It's, you know, a lot of times rejection is redirection. So, you know, I always say, and one of my mottos is look for the opportunity in the obstacle. And I think that that's personally served me well. Because when you run up against that brick wall, oftentimes we have such tunnel vision, all we see is the brick wall and all we feel is that force in our face, but we don't realize, well, if I take 3 steps to the left, the brick is sort of soft here and I can push through the brick wall because we're so much doing this. So, you know, being able to pay attention to what's going on, and then not taking things personal. It may be personal sometimes. People are going to be a jerk to you, and sometimes it will be personal, but you have a choice in how you respond, to take it personal or not, and learn the lesson from it and then move. And then, you know, a lot of times you can work your way around some really tricky situations by really having that situational awareness. Can you speak to the importance, Sam, of mentorship and the responsibility that we have, but specifically that POC and the industry have?
Mentorship is very important. It's extremely important. It's important on both sides. As a mentor, as you know, I made a joke about this earlier, but you know, it's my like this knowledge is not for me to take to my grave. This knowledge is for anybody who is coming up, you know, right now, who's just like, hey, this is what I want to do. How could I do this? And blah, blah, blah. We have a duty as people of color across the colorful spectrum, and then even more fine-tuning that as Black people, we literally have a duty to train a younger generation, to give a younger generation a bigger break than what we got, to lessen the time that it's going to take for a younger generation. If it took us 20 years, help them get it to 10. If it took us 5 years, help them get it to 2. Like, it is up to us, because now we're equipped with a kind of knowledge that we didn't have when we were coming up, because at that moment we were just trying to figure things out as we went along. Now we're in positions where we can kind of rewrite some of history's mistakes. And as a person of power, I always look at other people who don't have mentees, and I'm like, you foul.
Yeah.
Like, it's just foul. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's you just really holding on and not trying to relinquish some of this power. And it is up to us. It is our responsibility, because who is going to train up the next generation? And if we're not even giving them guidelines, and not saying that everything that we do is correct, but if we're not giving them guidelines, then then we can't be mad at those young people. Now, on the flip, as a mentee, you have got to be quiet, listen, and really be open to critiquing. You've got to be open to a critique of work, of character, and of movement. You know, not a critique of, something that may just be something that's nasty. But if you come in, I remember we had an intern, not in my department, but you know, at RCA, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I get that we're in the business, but girl, this is not free big 96, you know. And it was put to the side and say, hey, baby girl, that's not it. We're the music business. We're you know, we're casual. We're like, I get to wear sweatsuits and sneakers to work. Like, that's why I love it. But there's still a certain level of decorum. There's a certain level of something that you have to hold within you. And to come in here and literally have like Daisy Dukes and your ass cheeks out, that's not going to work. Like, and then you don't say, oh, well, no, you don't get to flip that. No, that's not going to work. So we can revamp this situation. You either, go home. We got the hoodies, the oversized hoodies, put something like that on, because, and you have to understand what that means. And you have to be open to hearing someone pull you to the side and say, hey, this isn't going to be the movie. Like, you need to switch up this style. Or just understanding office decorum. I've had interns where the one thing that drives me crazy is, I always tell them, at the end of the day, we're still a Fortune 500 company. We are still a publicly traded billion-dollar organization. And when you're answering the phone, whether it's for Geo Bivens, the executive vice president, or whoever's phone you're answering, you answer it with a professional tone. I don't care if you've got a code switch, but you need to make sure that you're clear, you're articulate, because this is still a place of business. I had an intern answer the phone like, hey, what's up? Because we have caller ID, right? So they would know. I'm like, nope. I don't care if your mama calls that phone. You answer name, title. It's those kinds of things where you have to understand and be open to being critiqued. And the critique comes from a place of, if I'm not correcting you, you're going to continue to carry these small mistakes that will turn into bigger mistakes. So yeah, I'm big on mentorship. I think everybody has a role to play.
I agree. I co-sign that exponentially, big on that. I do think that it's important advice, though. My pet peeve is somebody who continually comes back to you seeking the advice and never takes it.
Oh,
and I've had to respectfully, be like, hey, I appreciate that you're coming to me. I'm giving you the path. You haven't even tried the path. But and every time you come back, I give you the same. I don't do that anymore. There's a cutoff, right? But every time you come back, I give you the same. Oh yeah, you're right. I need to get on that. And and then 6 months later, you're struggling, frustrated, irritable because you haven't made any progress, and you're coming back and I'm giving you the same advice again. So, I mean, I had to learn. We have to learn as mentors that everybody doesn't really want to be a mentee. So you do have to learn the difference. But Sam, it's been amazing. I am more than honored that.
Wait, are we done? I've got more.
That this is, well, I'm going to bring you back. One, you would love to look the mic again. Two is that, man, it means so much to me that this is your first live. It's more than you know.
Yes.
From a personal and professional level. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on here and sharing the wisdom.
You broke my life, Cherry. Can I say that?
Yes.
So inappropriate, but
Sam's Instagram is down here. I've pinned it in the comments. It's Sam the Hype Beast. I am Terri Thomas. You can follow either one of us if you so desire. Coming up on Thursday, we've got another session of the Business Behind the Music, and we're going to pivot, my word, and we're going to talk about the power of publicity. So I've got an expert here, Latoria Lemon, who is incredible in the world of PR, publicity, and event coordination. So she's going to be dropping some gems. And then this live will save to the IGTV on the box. So if you missed any part of it, you can come back and watch it, or feel free to share with your friends. So Sam, thank you for everything. And if you want to come back in a few minutes, I know we've got Tiana Taylor who's going to be on with Good Morning H-Town. So
I was Tiana's opener. Shout out to me. Hey.
I love it. All right, Box family.
Thank you, Terri. This was fun.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.